Okay, I want to help you get started here. So assuming you have a working printer, let's get everything set up for your first print. So the first thing you want to check is that your x-axis is horizontal with respect to the table. So let's measure on this side. Looks like we have about 12.3 centimeters. And then measure on this side. Also looks like 12.3, so that looks good. You want that within a millimeter at least, I'd say. Notice I've got the hot end and the bed heated up. It's good to have it that way, though you have to be careful not burn yourself. But metal expands when it heats up, so things may be different when it's heated up versus not heated up. But let's go ahead and auto home. So prepare, auto home, and we want to get our z-axis to where the printer thinks it's at 0. Get things working here. All right, so it auto homed, but then it usually backs up just a little bit. So let's see where we are here. Oh, it says Z is at 0. Let's go ahead and double check that. So we can go to prepare, move axis, move Z, 0.1 millimeters. It is at 0. Okay, very good. So let's do the paper test here. When it's at 0, we want it, this is where it's going to be printing the first layer. We want it to be able to just put a piece of paper under there and just barely feel friction between the nozzle and the bed. And I don't really feel anything here. So let's go to Control, Motion, Probe Z Offset. So this is electronic adjustment between the sensor and the nozzle position. So we want to go down a little bit. So let's make it be negative a bit. Still can't feel anything. We're moving thousandths of millimeters, so it takes a bit. So this is the adjustment for the center of the bed. In a minute we're going to adjust the rest of the bed, but moving more negative. Okay, that's a little much maybe. I can feel friction there. It's a little hard to pull. I want it to be just barely friction, so I'm going back up. Not too much. Okay, it takes a little patience. Okay, so right there about 0.444. Feel a little bit of friction in the center of the bed between the nozzle and the heated bed. So let's go ahead and try leveling the whole bed now. Notice there is a bolt in each corner, so we want to make sure each corner now is at that same height. So let's move our axes over here so that we can get to the middle. And so what I've done to make sure that the motors let you move them, you go to disable steppers, and so you can move, while it's still turned on, you can move the axes without messing with the motors. Okay, so let's go in there, and it's quite a bit of space. I don't feel anything, so I'm going to loosen this bolt a little bit. And so it's good to make sure before you start this process that all the bolts are turned in a way so that there's room to loosen and tighten, but mostly room to loosen is what we run into. So let's put it back there, loosened a little bit. There, now I can just feel a little friction there. Let's go over to this other side in the front still. Again, same thing, pretty loose. And then let the bolt up so that the bed is closer to the nozzle. Just a little bit at a time. Still too loose. Still loose. Now it's too tight, I can't get it under there, so go back down. Turn the bolt in a touch. Okay, very nice. All right, check the back. Same kind of thing. That one's good. Let's try this side. just a little tight, so we'll turn that one down just a hair. Okay, so we've got all four where we want them. Let's go ahead and do auto home again and get everything back to 0. Well, the Z back to 0. I could have just done. Anyway, we'll just let it do auto home. Check how the center is. Well, it doesn't look like it's at 0 there. Let's see. Yeah, Z is at 0.44, so let's go ahead and put Z. Prepare, move axis, move Z down to 0. Okay. Then we don't feel much friction there, but we'll try printing something and see how it does. Okay, so we can also adjust the Z offset while we're printing. We know we have the 4 corners level, the bed pretty level, so let's go ahead and print. And since it's preheated, it should start printing pretty fast. Let's just print a filament holder here. PLA, come on. Okay, so it will, well, the bed's not quite up to heat, so it needs to heat the bed a little bit. And then it will go through its auto leveling routine and so forth here. So it does have auto leveling. It will go through and sense many points on the bed and do calculations and adjust its print so that when it's printing, it will actually move the Z-axis up and down where it thinks the bed is. But it works, but it's not. You don't get quite as high quality prints if you're depending on that too much, too many motions in there. And so it's best to get it within a millimeter if you can, or less, of being just really good and level. Now it extrudes a bit, just to make sure nothing's blocked and so forth. It's good to kind of grab that and keep it there because globs of extra filament in a print can harden and catch, make all kinds of bad things happen. So let's get that out of there. Now, the way I have it set, it first draws a skirt around the outside. That also helps clean off the nozzle, get some of this extra stuff out of there. And it seems like it's sticking pretty well with our offset that we set. Let's see if we can zoom in. You can see anything there. But it's making pretty thin lines, and the nozzle is fairly high off the surface. But it's going to do the outside frame of this filament holder first, and then it's going to start filling in. And let's just mess with the Z offset a little bit while it's doing it. So it doesn't look bad where it is. But let's go to back to see the controller here. We can go to, while it's printing now, we can go to Tune and find the Z offset in here. Other things, we can adjust the flow and the heat and so forth, but do probe Z offset, and let's first bring it up. See what it looks like when it's too high. tends to make little thin lines that don't stick to each other. And it could get to, if you have it really too high, it could be where it doesn't stick to the bed and just stays on the nozzle and have all kinds of problems. So then let's just slowly go negative now. And we'll look at the print when we're, see if we can see anything. So I'm going down further and further as I go. It's a little hard to see here. But one more negative. Just gradually more negative. Now at about where we had it before. And we go past. Let's go too far and see what happens if we go too far on what that looks like. I'm negative 0.6 now. 667. So I don't know if you can see, but it's getting really thin and it's almost not, the one that's almost not coming out now. So that's bad. You can plug up the nozzle this way by not letting the filament come through, right? So let's go back up. Back up to better values there. That's about negative 0.5. About negative 0.45. That's a pretty good setting for my printer. So your printer will be different depending on where you put your, how you set your sensor with respect to your nozzle. And every time you adjust something on your sensor, your nozzle, that will change too. So let's go ahead and stop the print. You can pause prints if you want to restart them later, but this is just a demo, so let's stop the print. And then it will start cooling down. But let's go, oh, one thing, when you get your Z offset how you want it, remember to go to Control and Store Settings. Otherwise, it will forget when you turn it off. And I've been told that it's best to, if you're going to do another print while you're right here, to go ahead and turn it off and then turn it back on so that those settings get used. Because sometimes when you start a print in the middle of having the printer on, it might go back to what it was when you turned it on. So just trying to get this off. It's still soft, so it's a little hard to get off neatly. But we can kind of see here when, hopefully you can see, when the offset was, let's go down at the paper here. When the offset was too high, see how it's making like little strings that aren't stuck together? They're stuck on the ends, but in the middle they're not stuck. And then we were going down, down, down. And so here is a pretty good spot, right, where there are strings, and I kind of messed some of them up by taking it off too early, but strings that are stuck together fairly nicely. But then we went too far, got really thin because the nozzle was almost scraping the plate here. It's like nothing came out for a little while. And then went back up, and so here is a pretty good spot where the lines are touching each other, filled in. We have a little bit of holes there, but that could be from the circles from before. But pretty good lines being drawn that are just wide enough to touch each other, not too wide that they would kind of cause some bubbling, like over here when they're kind of too wide, they cause a little bit of bubbling and so forth. But hopefully at a really good setting right about in here. All right. Hopefully that gives you a good idea of how to get your machine started. And it takes some fine-tuning, going back and forth. Mine has been working and I just messed it up a little bit. Yours may be quite a bit more out of whack and take a little more fine-tuning as you go.